Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. This episode is brought to you by The Wellness Paradigm, a holistic health coaching company shifting the way that women understand and heal their bodies. Through bioenergetic testing, functional lab testing, and functional nutrition, we uncover what traditional approaches often overlook, so you can stop guessing, start healing, and finally feel like yourself again. No more one-size-fits-all protocols, just real answers, deep-rooted healing, and the clarity and confidence you deserve to feel incredible. It's time to shift the paradigm of women's health. Now, on to our show. Hello, Michon.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, this is going to be such a fun conversation. We already were having so much fun chatting before we even hit record. But Michon, I said that right, right?
hmm
She's a former CFO turned financial wellness mentor who helps ambitious women align their spending with their values to create lasting wealth, peace, and vitality. After overcoming chronic health challenges and corporate burnout, she guides others to break free from financial chaos and build lives rooted in intention and purpose. And I feel like this is just going to be so great. And on a more casual way, she's just going to talk about how being very financially stable, how to do that, like practical tips, and how this can also really help not only fund your wellness journey, but help you feel healthier as well through the process. So the floor is yours. Tell us more about yourself.
Well, thank you so much. First off, I just really want to say thank you for the work you're doing. We talked about this before we got on, that this work is incredible and so impactful and so needed. So I'm so grateful that you're doing this work. I'll just share a little bit about my story because I'm really familiar with your work because I'm working with a functional nutritionist. His name is Dane Anderson, Fitness Dane on Instagram. I've been with him for a couple of years. So let me share a little bit about my healing journey, and we'll just work in that finance piece because it's a whole. It's a whole ecosystem. It's a whole person. So I don't feel like you can break those pieces off. Um, so I have always been, I call myself a recovering type A, which has been good and bad because like I push so hard that I push past some warning signs in my body.
Mhm.
So I worked in corporate for about 20 years. I was a management accountant, managed teams on both sides of the pond. Then came to a software company, was able to scale that, worked there as VP of Finance and HR. Loved that company, loved, loved, loved. Then moved on as a CFO, where we did, it's called integrated. We did front office for the service industry. So we did payroll, insurance, tax, bookkeeping, all those sorts of things. And it was such a fun job, but I just had a pull on my heart. And so I will get to that. I had stepped out of that. I stepped out of that just a few months ago. Um, so my healing, as I am VP of Finance, living my absolute dream. That job was everything I wanted. I have an accounting degree and an MBA, and I did that because I wanted a seat in the boardroom. I am fascinated by business. I love scaling businesses. I've helped several, hundreds of businesses scale. We scaled this software company to incredible heights. We did some wonderful things, and it was fun. I went to work every day just so passionate and so happy until I wasn't because my body's like, hey, this isn't working. Because I was pushing so hard all the time.
Yep.
And I started dealing with pulsatile tinnitus. So every time I laid down, my ears would pulse. And I kind of ignored it and I thought, oh, it's a mechanics problem. Something's wrong here. And so I'm in Utah. I went to the U of U. They're our best hospital here in Utah. And so I got to the experts of the experts, and they're like, okay, well, to stop this, it's going to take brain surgery. That was in 2015. And I was like, oh, no, I'm out. I'm not doing that. We'll deal with pulsatile tinnitus. Well, fortunately for me, it starts going away for a little bit. And it did for a minute until 2019. Things got worse, pulsatile tinnitus, and I start gaining weight. And again, I'm like, well, I'm midlife. I've had a couple of babies. Like maybe that's normal. I go to the doctor, and I'm sure you've heard this before. My labs look fine. You're all
Mhm.
right. Just keep going. Okay. So I'm okay. I'm okay. My ears are pulsing, but the doctors keep telling me I'm fine. I start to get worse. I start getting these like migraines that are wrapping around my head, and my body just keeps blowing up. I'm working, at that point I was working with a trainer out of Florida, and she's got me down to 1,200 calories. I'm lifting heavy and my body's going like this, and like literally just a balloon, and I'm feeling horrible. So I go to work all day, and then I come home and like all but die because I just am done. Like I'm completely burned out. My body isn't supporting me. And I wasn't sleeping at night. My anxiety's out the roof. And with not sleeping, I developed a habit with Diet Coke, which was killing my guts, of course. And I called it my frenemy. So I had a really sweet assistant. She would set a 44 on my desk in the morning and a 44 on my desk at lunch. And I thought she was doing me a favor. We're both pulling faces because we're dying. Like, right, that's not a favor. But it was keeping me alive. It gave me the caffeine I needed to kind of like be a person.
Yeah.
Well, things kept getting worse, and I ran into Dane. Fortunately, Dane is local to me, and I run into him. I'm telling him what's going on. I'm telling him I'm working with this other gal out of Florida, and we joke that like he almost bit his tongue off trying to be polite because he's like, "Oh my gosh, that's never gonna work." And, you know, at the time I was so foolish because I've dealt with eating disorders, things like that. And I thought, well, if I could just lose the weight.
Yep.
No, the weight was a symptom. I just
Yep.
didn't know it then, right? And he's like, you're never one gonna lose the weight. Two, things are just gonna keep going off track and you're just gonna get sicker and sicker because you're not following protocols that are gonna be healthy and supportive for your body. And he goes into, we've got a lot of gut work. He's like, I think I can even, help you with the pulsatile tinnitus, all these things. And I should say, prior to meeting him, I had had an experimental surgery. They had done they'd done an angiogram, venogram, and then a lumbar puncture, and then gone in and blown up balloons in my head, trying to find a restriction somewhere that was causing the pulsing because we couldn't tie it to anything. And that surgery, they were so wonderful. They warned me it was experimental. It did not work. They put bone paste behind my right ear. It did not work. And then it was that spring, that was in December. And then in that spring, I ran into Dane. And I was at my wit's end because I had tried everything. Like I felt like I'd tried everything. I had a doctor that was supporting me. We were doing some hormone replacement therapy, some of those things, because like all of that had gone on track. I mean, that was out the door a long time ago.
Oh.
And only now am I starting to have my hormones back online, but we're still doing a lot of hormone replacement. So I start working with Dane. Dane was incredible. He At the time that we started working together, I was on muscle relaxers, several Xanax, Benadryl, you name it. If I could get my hands on it to be able to sleep, I would. And I would take this
Oh.
whole cocktail of meds.
Oh.
Didn't care what they were, knock me out, NyQuil, whatever. And then 3 hours later, I'm up again. And it
Oh.
wasn't restful sleep. And I'm taking the cocktail again. And then at like 6 a.m., after getting a couple hours of sleep, I'm pulling myself out of bed and trying to show up as an executive in a company that I love. And it wasn't working. So Dane he cold turkey pulls me off all these meds.
Yeah.
And it was insane. My
Well,
sweet husband, I've got 3 kids, and my husband stays at home with my kids. I'm the sole breadwinner. He basically worked with Dane and like force fed me because like at that point I was suicidal. Like I was like, I hate this. Like I would say I was a rabid raccoon because I would be up all night. I was up all night. And then I'd have to go to work. And Dane was like, we're not doing caffeine. Like we've got to reset your circadian
wow.
rhythm. All these things are probably checking boxes for you, but and I'm like, oh, I'm not even a person right now.
Mhm.
And I would go to work and I would just be like, I can't even come home because I can't face it. Um, oh, see, I'm tearing up. It was really hard. It was a really hard time. And so, fortunately, we made it through it. My husband force fed me the foods that Dana wanted me to eat. I was scared of food. I was scared of everything because everything made me feel terrible.
Yep.
Anything I put in my body, it felt like it inflamed me. And it
Mhm.
did. Um,
Yeah.
and so now we're a couple years in. Things are much better. I'm sleeping. Dane, I often call him the wizard. He has worked his magic. We've still got a long ways to go because we have years and years and years of issues that we're healing. So we keep peeling back the onion. Right now, I'm doing a lot of peptides. Uh, so they're supporting mitochondrial health, and then my immune system is super flared up still. And so he's got some things that are working on my immune system. And I'm very fortunate. So I'm injecting like 7 things in the morning. And then I've got some other things I do in the evening. He's got a whole regimen for me, but it's working. And so I'm just so grateful to be on this healing journey. Now, I'll say also, as part of that, we talked about this. I have an energy healer, and she's come in and addressed that side of it. And I had a lot of work to do that way. I didn't realize how much I had done talk therapy. Talk therapy was wonderful, but it didn't quite close the
Mm-hmm.
gap for me. So I did the energy healing, and actually, she's got a few different containers. I did her VIP week, then I did 8 weeks. Now I'm in for a whole year because this woman is changing my life. Her name is Gina. She's Magic by Design on Instagram, and she's incredible. She also came from corporate, so it's kind of been nice because she's kind of been holding my hand leaving
Mm-hmm.
corporate. Um, so that's kind of my healing story. So I've got her, and I really believe that a person is you've got to address them from all these different angles. And you and I talked about that you can't necessarily heal without some of the, dealing with the trauma and things like that. And trauma can be this big or this big, but it still affects you. And so
Mm-hmm.
you don't even realize, because I didn't have like this traumatic, horrible childhood. I can't say that, like, I don't have that like big survival story. No. But there were still things that I needed to work on. And so that's my background with healing. Now the finance piece came in. So I'm very passionate about finance. I believe that if you can get your financial house in order, it can be a support to you. It's another tool for healing. And so, for me, I was able to, while all this is going on, while I'm so sick, we paid off our 3,000 square foot house at age 36 with 3 kids on one income. We funded several surgeries chasing healing. That wasn't the only one, but I didn't want to give you the whole rundown. We'd be here all day. We funded all of that. We got we don't do debt. We've been really fortunate that way, because of the way I've handled our finances. And I run into people all the time that will say, wow, like you look like you feel so much better, all these things. And then they ask how, and I start going into it. Well, it took this and this and this. Not only was it hard work, it took a chunk of change. And immediately people shut off. And I hate watching that, because I'm like, hang on, you can do this too. Do not cut yourself off from healing because the insurance won't pay for it. So that's something that I'm really passionate about. And I want to make sure people understand that by looking at their financial house and getting those things in order, and we can talk more about that if that's something you want to dive into. By doing that, you can fund your healing. You don't need to make more money. You don't need to, you don't need to go without, we were joking, you don't need to go without your morning coffee after food, right? we don't do it before. I'm well trained. No caffeine before food. But in fact, no caffeine for me right now still. But my point being is you can have your cake and eat it too. And that's my approach to finances. We want finances to be grounded, calm. We don't need that like hustle, because for a lot of us, that's how I got here. That's how I got so sick. And so I don't need another financial system that's like overwhelming and giving me tons more work. And that's not what I'm about. So that's how I've approached that. So now we've got a suite of digital courses. I've got Pay Off Your Mortgage that shows people how even just small payments, you can get in there and buy so many years back of your life. Pay off your credit card. We have a problem with credit card debt. And a lot of times it's people who are just trying to survive, and they survived and they need help then dealing with that outcome. I don't approach it with shame, with anything like that. It's like usually that was their solution and they needed that, and now they need help, healing from that. And so that's the Pay Off Your Credit Card. And then I've got my signature course that's a cash cascade course that shows people where their money is at. And that's the piece that I think can be really helpful for a healing community is when you can see where your money's at for the next 12 months, you can align your spending, you can make sure that you are actually following your goals and and whatever. For me, it was healing. That's what I wanted to do. And you can make sure that you're doing that. It shows you patterns. It shows you, because it's got a burn rate analysis. It's got all this magic stuff going on behind the scenes, and it can show you, oh, okay, so how did this purchase affect me later, being able to have my finances be supportive in my healing, or whatever my goal is. And I want people to see that if they can align all of those things, the outcome can be that the finances just run in the background and we focus on healing and we don't have more stress in our life. So, yeah.
I I'm glad this is coming up, right? You and I chatted before about how sometimes it's taboo to talk about this, and especially as women, I feel like we do not talk about finances enough. And
Mm-hmm.
as women, we carry a lot of stress. I can't tell you how many CFOs, how many attorneys, how many I have that are in the same situation as you, we're burning
Mm-hmm.
ourselves out. But I would love to maybe have one or two like starting points. If somebody's like, I'll tailor this to wellness because a lot of people listening are on this healing journey. This podcast is
Mm-hmm.
incredible because it is a free resource where I am bringing on experts in so many fields, which is awesome, to give you the free resources. And there is nothing like having a one-on-one coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
And having different modalities, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, if somebody's maybe like, I want to take this step, I'm nervous to invest. That's multiple things we can get to more on the energetic side of things, but I'm nervous to invest financially. What would you kind of tell them as far as like maybe some places to get started, how to, some mindset blocks, whatever you want to get into?
Well, I do think mindset is a big piece of it. I think mindset is a big piece of everything, and no one wants to talk about it because they're
Yeah,
like, whatever, it doesn't matter how I feel, whatever. It does too.
it
It
does.
does too matter. And I think the first step is you know deciding what your goals are. And people say journal, meditate, whatever. No, it works. It works. It absolutely works. And sitting down and going, what are my goals? If I truly want to heal, then what do I need to do to align my finances that way? Like, you hear about manifesting, and I used to kind of laugh at manifesting, like, you're joking me, so like I think it and it just appears. No, manifesting means we think it and then we align things so that it then happens, right? And so that's how I look at finances. So I have an intentional spending planner that goes through and says, okay, let's list all our expenses, let's look at all of that and decide what aligns.
Yep.
I'm not asking you to cut out a whole bunch of things. The nice thing about this, I've got a cash cascade method. The nice thing about that is they can go through and they can say, okay, if I do this now, in a few months, I then can pursue this healing or whatever. So I think it's all about getting clarity, not only like with your goals, but with your finances. Like, because your finances need to follow your goals. Every dollar you spend is a vote for whatever you're spending it on. So if the thing that's most important to you is to have name brand clothes, do that. If the thing that's most important to you is to heal, then we look at your spending and we say, does that align with it? Because
Mhm.
I have helped client after client see that they have more room than they realized.
Mhm.
But they're doing things out of either like emotional spending or like habit triggers, convenience. I mean, we live in such a fast paced world. We feel like we almost have to like hurry and buy that thing on Amazon. We got to have it tomorrow. Do you? Do you? And we
Mhm.
talk a lot about that. Like, do you? Can you leave it in your cart for a week and then go, okay, did I really need that? Or was that like, I just had to have it then? And so there's just a lot of things. I do a lot of work around those triggers and around clarity, because once you have that, you can align everything to it. Does that kind of answer your question in like a good place to start?
Yes, it's funny. Today in our group chat with our one-on-one clients, I actually posted something that I feel like really aligns with this as I talked about core values. And if you're living in alignment with your core values, whatever those core values might be, but this can really tie into financials too. So let's say you want to heal, you want to get rid of this chronic hormone dysregulation, weight gain, thyroid issue, whatever it might be, right? You just want to feel better, but you're spending your money on DoorDash, you're spending your money on, fast food, whatever it is. I mean, things that aren't aligning with that end goal. Are you living in alignment? Like, is your true one of your core values health? Or is it, whatever it might be. So it's like I feel like you can kind of weave that in a little bit. It's like, I think that makes me feel a little bit more not like I'm I think sometimes it's restriction. Oh, I can't do this because I'm restricting myself. It's like, no,
Hmm.
you're not restricting yourself on spending. You're spending it in a way that's more aligned with the person that you want to become, you know?
Yep.
And I think that is a really good shift, especially in the door. I hate to say DoorDash, but the DoorDash era, I literally had a client who thought she couldn't afford it. We kind of did a budget thing because she allowed me to, talk about that. She was spending $500 a month on DoorDash without
Yep.
realizing it. And, it's like, okay, if we meal prepped, we could have probably spent that, $150, for the month
And
on.
also, side note, you'll feel a lot better.
I know all the seed
Yeah.
oils and all the inflammation is going to
Yeah.
help to win. But yeah, that's just an example that came into my mind with what you were
Yeah. Well, and I think so. So something that's important to me too, and it sounds like that you're working, with your clients on this is like, okay, so we don't shame on the DoorDash. We did that for a reason. She's
saying.
doing that for a reason. Why are we doing that? Maybe we go to work all day. That woman, whoever, is stressed out. So she's dealing with all these other things and it's survival. Okay, so how do we get out of survival where we feel like we have to have DoorDash? That's
Hmm.
what we have to address, is that like trigger. Okay, so we're in survival all day. What's causing that during the day? And so that's how finances come in and be a supportive piece. Is we just I use the 5 whys. But why? But why? And until we get to what's driving that behavior, because for some reason that's a thing for her that she needs, or else she wouldn't keep doing it, right? I mean, I like to look at things like that and let people know, one, we're not going to shame, we're not, we are going to address the issue, and I need you to know you're a fighter, because 99% of the people that I've met, that I've worked with, they're doing it to survive. They're
Hmm.
fighting. They're doing their very best, and they don't need to be told by, Dave Ramsey, well, you dummy, why'd you spend 500 on DoorDash? Like, no, they need someone to give them a big hug and go, girl, I'm so sorry that, if, like in my scenario, that work was so stressful that you felt like you had to come home and do that. So let's
Yep.
address this, and let's address, yeah, can we do some meal prep? Do it all on Sunday. Let's get our meal prep. Let's get that stuff in the fridge. And then you don't feel like you have to do the DoorDash. And
Mm.
so that's how I like to approach the finance piece of it, is to make sure that we come in and we're very supportive of the whole person. And it is just running in the background, and it's just a support, another tool, because that's all it is. Money is energy. It's another tool we can use. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, I love that example, and helping people see we do have some breathing room, but how do we address the reason that we're doing that?
That's so important. There's always a deeper reason for, for everything,
Mm-hmm.
and we always think, especially I'll just use DoorDash. I'm eating this way because I don't know how to eat. I don't know any recipes. That's not really the problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
always coming down to nervous system regulation in some way.
Yep.
Why we talk so much about energy healing, and on this podcast too, is like it is not just about the food you eat, why you're eating that, why you feel like you lack discipline.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you don't, there's some survival mechanism, your body's stressed, it's in a chronic state of fight or flight, and we don't realize
Mm-hmm.
it, especially a high achieving women. We just keep going until our body like, "Arr!" It's like gives us like a hard screech. It's like,
Yep.
girl, I've been giving you warning signs for months and you just keep saying, nah, I'll deal with you later until your body's like, I will not let you deal with it later. You have to deal with
Yes.
it now. And I think that's why also working on the financial health is so, I don't want to say if that comes up because I hopefully it doesn't, but many of the listeners have had these moments of health crises. You are prepared and you feel like you are ready to take that step too and not, scrambling. Because then when you feel scrambling and you're trying to go into a health journey, but you're coming from this really scarcity mindset too, it
Yes.
delays your healing journey as well. We've seen that too. And it's hard.
It's an added stressor, right?
That's a stressor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a stressor. And so, yeah, people struggle with that because they're like, you're kidding me. Now I've got to pay this, and this. And so then they have that humming in the background. And like we know, your nervous system doesn't know whether it's like the old example of the tiger. Is it a tiger, or is it our finances that are getting us all wound up? Well, we don't know, but all we know is our nervous system is dysregulated, and it's
Oh,
spinning off all these other issues.
it's
So
so
aligning your finances can be supportive of that.
100%. Yeah, that that tiger analogy is holds true, but it is funny because people are like, whatever. That's literally true. We are like innately, we do not know whether we're trying to like fight a tiger off or like, fight a toddler off or whatever. But like our body's stressed. Um,
Mhm.
it's so interesting. Like I do bioresonance work, I do bioenergetic work, and so that weaves, the functional healing side and the emotional side. But why I bring this up is we can tap into emotions and we can tap into different stressors. And things that show up on clients' scans is financial. Like it doesn't give us a lot. It's just financial as being a top stressor sometimes.
Mhm.
And that's, when we have conversations about this, hey, do you know where this could be coming from? And it's pretty amazing because when you can kind of unlock that, maybe work, that's not my expertise. Maybe I need to send them to you if that shows up,
I'd
because
love to help them.
literally, I mean, this is so fun because there's certain things that show up like financial, where it's like, hey, we can
Uh-huh.
talk about this a little to my extent. But that's holding their body back on an energetic level from healing,
Yes.
from
It's a
being in their
block.
most aligned state. It's a block. And so
Mhm.
that's, people I don't think realize just the impact it has on for me, on a subconscious, like subatomic level.
Mhm.
So, but it's funny because we can hear about it and the logical brain is like, well, to see it in the 3D, like a scan, it's like affirming that, and you're like, okay, fine, I'll go, I'll
Mhm.
dress this now.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
if somebody was maybe two or three of your favorite kind of tips, if somebody is maybe a little stressed about finances, they want to get it more in alignment, they want to do a health journey, what would you say are maybe two or three of the biggest blocks that people have, and two or three of your favorite tips that have really moved the needle forward for people?
So the biggest blocks, well, one, you mentioned it already, scarcity.
Yeah.
And I used to, again, like I would roll my eyes like scarcity, whatever, it is what it is. Like the money says what it says. It's scarcity isn't a thing, but it is. It is when we feel like we're constantly like white knuckling life and white knuckling our finances. That's what it will feel like, and that's what it will act like.
Hmm.
And so if we keep doing that, that can just cause more stress in our life, and it makes us think small. I run into so many people, with all my clients and things like that, they're thinking small because they just never think, well, I can't achieve that. I can't achieve that. And so they live in this scarcity mode, and they end up staying stuck in those patterns, which is another thing that we can include in that list, and that I addressed in my credit card course, because they stay stuck in those patterns and it just keeps repeating itself, and they just get sicker and sicker and sicker because they can't get out of that negative pattern.
Hmm.
So scarcity and that negative pattern. Um, Something else, I said that I worked in finance and HR. So I doubled as both as the VP at the software company. And it's really interesting how few people pay attention to what is coming out of their paycheck. That's something else that's coming to me. Just looking from the income standpoint, they don't always know what's coming out of their paycheck. They know what they're, coming home with. Okay, I came home with $2,000, but my salary was $4,000. Well, what came out? And I would get so frustrated. I'd have people celebrate getting a tax return or something like that, and I'm like, that was a free loan. What are we doing? So that was one of the kind of the soft things I would do at the company is, let's reevaluate your taxes. Let's make sure we're handling that right. Are we investing? Are we putting into our HSA so that we have a backup plan? If something happens, we have a major health event from that end where we need to go into the hospital, something like that. Are we putting into our HSA? Are
Hmm.
we, and there's just so many things that can come out of your paycheck. Are we investing for our future? Because that too, and especially now, right now, with like the tariffs and everything going on, people are like up in arms about investments, and that can cause stress as well. Um, and if we know that we're, kind of averaging our dollars by just consistently investing, we can put that part of our mind to rest. Your future is developing. You're okay. You're going to be taken care of. You are safe. That kicks the tiger out, right? So those are a few of the things that I come in, and see a lot of times. And then also, your DoorDash example was a great example, because I see people spending for convenience, or because like it's for survival, convenience or survival. And most of the times, really, the root of the convenience is survival. We find out, oh, okay, so that's why you didn't even have the energy to deal with that. And so I think it's important to look at things that way. And then you asked sorry, tell me again, you asked for three things that I see often, and we talked about those. And
Yeah,
then
just like two or three tips to help just shift if somebody wanted to like, I'm ready, let's get going. Like, what are two, three things they could do now to help kind of with
to
this?
get going on their healing journey,
On their
or
financial
oh,
wellness journey.
okay. Well, one of the things I would do is turn off the news. Truthfully, truthfully, I would turn off the news and stop stressing, because we've seen the market do this.
Yes.
And it's going to keep doing it. There's a lot shaking and moving right now, and
Oh,
all we're doing
yeah.
is adding to our stress
Yes.
when
The
we're
time of
watching.
recording is a really rough time right now. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So and then I would I would really sit down and seriously think and not take your surface level goal. If you say, I have people come to me, I don't want to stress about money anymore. So that's your goal? Like, that's kind of vague. What does that really look like? Why? 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 And I think it's really important for people to sit down and ask themselves that. But why? Why is that my goal? But why? But why? And once you really get to that root goal, it's easier to bring everything into alignment and go, okay, this is what I'm chasing. And so what can I do to align my spending with that? Which brings me to my next point of going through your spending. I I always tell people, first, we live in this world where you can sign up for all these free subscriptions, and then people don't use them, and they're like, well, maybe I'll use it next month or whatever, or they forget about it, and that adds up, and they'll say, oh, well, that's only $15 a month. Yeah, but how many $15 a month are you spending?
yeah.
And are you even using it? Could you do something that doesn't clutter your mind space, that doesn't, soak up your money? Could you find a different solution to that? And so I think doing a subscription audit is like a quick win. And I
Mhm.
like people to get quick wins. And I'm sure you're probably the same. Like, if you can get them like the quick win fast, it gives them a little bit to chew on as they're
Mhm.
working through some of the things that take a little bit more time. And so, yeah, like that's why I brought up like looking at what's coming out of your paycheck. Is that aligning with my goals? Looking at my subscriptions, looking at my deep why. All of those things get you started. And just please don't play into fear. You're more powerful than you know. And like we have so much power in us, and that's something that's a big part of my message. Is I want people to know that they have more control, more opportunity, and can be bigger than they ever thought they could be. And it doesn't matter what aspect, what their goals are, you have more than you ever realized. So go, really believing in your intuition and giving yourself the education to match with that, whether it's through my courses or someone else or whatever, so that, learning from you if it's the help, learning from me if it's finance, whatever, so that they can, you know, have that peace in their life. And then lastly, I'll just top it all off with gratitude. I'm
Mhm.
big on gratitude because I think not I think, I know it changes how people feel, and it
Mhm.
changes how you see your money, right? It shifts you into abundance.
Mhm.
And that's when you can grow and create this financial future that you never thought you could have. You can
Mhm.
have it. And so I want people to know those things. And those are some of the first things that I work with people. Yeah, we've got to look at what's coming out of the paycheck. Yeah, we got to look at this money. We got to look at those things. Those things are really important. But I don't think those are the starting point. I think those come after we've done the inner work to make sure that we are aligned with where we want to go. Because if we don't even know where we want to go, how can we say that that DoorDash doesn't fit in our plan? Maybe we love that. Maybe it's okay because that's what we love. All right. I mean, you and me are cringing because we're like seed oils, ugh. But like, right? But maybe that's what they love, and that's their goal, and they don't care about whatever's happening with the seed oils and the inflammation. They don't care about that, and that's okay. But my point being, like, you have to know where you want to go, and so I guess that's what I'm saying. Just kind of wrap it all up in gratitude and those things. So I just think it's important to do that inner work. We run at such a fast pace, and sometimes we don't stop and go, but why is this
Mhm.
important to me? So those are some places I would start. And then if people are dealing with credit card debt and things like that, because we live in that world, there's so much that can be done around that as well. And there's so much freedom that can be found, um, you know through looking at that spend and then renegotiating our credit card interest rates. There's so many things you can do You can be told once and you can call back again. You can deal with it. You can do it. You have that power. I don't know. Did that kind of answer? I kind of wandered, but there's so much on my heart. I just want to give your listeners this big hug and be like, you can do this.
I love it.
So
You're like their little financial hype woman. Um, I love it, and I love that you ended on the gratitude piece too, because we know on a literal science, like science has proven that gratitude
mhm,
does shift and change your body, not only, in what's possible financially, but also what's possible healing wise. It's just gratitude
mhm.
is at the base of all of this. So I love this. Thank you for coming on and sharing all of these
Sure.
great tips with our listeners. Please let us know, where can people find you?
So I've got my website. It's michoncovington.com. You might have to check the show notes for spelling because
I'll put it down there. Don't worry.
okay, because it's kind of goofy, but it's michoncovington.com. I've got that whole suite of courses. I'm here to support you to really hype you up. I'm on Instagram, of course. I'm Michon P. Covington on Instagram. I'd love to have you come join us over there. I share a lot of things like what I've shared today over there, and just some insights into what I do with my money and things like that on the day to day. So those are a couple of different places they can find me. I've also got the guide that I mentioned to you earlier, where it talks about like what is your goal and really getting to the the core of what your goal is, and then looking at what you could do with that money. And
Mhm.
so I've got that available as well. And I just, yeah, I guess that would be all the places you can find me. I'd love to connect. I love hearing people's success stories. Hit me on my DMs. It's me, it's not anyone else answering. And I just love talking to people and learning and helping others. So,
I love that. I know we align on so many levels on that. So, if you guys got a great insight, I would love to know, either DM one of us if this was like really hit home. If you want to leave a review, 'cause this was helpful, we always appreciate it. It helps us reach so many more listeners and hear these amazing stories. So, thank you guys for listening in, and thank you, Michon, for spending the hour with me here, and we will catch you guys on the next show.
all right. Thank you.